The richest man in the city was about to marry the perfect woman. Everyone said they were made for each other. But when 3 crying children ran into the church shouting, "Don't marry her, Daddy," his whole world changed forever. Sometimes the biggest secrets come in the smallest packages. Before watching full story, comment below from where are you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The morning sun shone through the tall windows of St. Michael's Cathedral. It was the biggest church in the city. Today was going to be the most important wedding of the year. Everyone who was anyone would be there. Marcus Wellington looked at himself in the mirror one last time. He was 28 years old and one of the richest men in the country. His black hair was perfectly styled. His expensive tuxedo fit him like it was made just for him, which it was. Everything had to be perfect today. "You ready, son?" his father asked, walking into the room. Richard Wellington was a powerful man who owned hotels and businesses all over the world. "I think so," Marcus said, but his voice didn't sound sure. "Think so? Marcus, you're marrying Victoria Ashford. She's beautiful, smart, and from a good family. What more could you want?" Marcus didn't answer. Deep inside he felt like something was missing, but he couldn't say what. Outside, hundreds of guests were arriving at the cathedral. Expensive cars dropped off men in perfect suits and women in designer dresses. Photographers took pictures of everyone. This wasn't just a wedding, it was the social event of the decade. Victoria Ashford sat in her dressing room, looking at herself in the mirror. She was 26 years old and considered the most beautiful woman in their social circle. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves down her back. Her wedding dress cost more money than most people made in a year. "You look absolutely perfect, darling," her mother said, fixing Victoria's diamond necklace. Victoria smiled, but it was a cold smile. She was marrying Marcus for his money and status, not for love. She had never really loved anyone except herself. The cathedral filled with guests. There were movie stars, politicians, business owners, and other rich families. The altar was decorated with thousands of white roses. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, making everything sparkle like diamonds. Marcus's best friend, David, stood beside him at the altar. "You okay, man? You look nervous." "I'm fine," Marcus lied. But he wasn't fine. For some reason he kept thinking about Sarah. Sarah had been his girlfriend 3 years ago. She was nothing like the women his family approved of. She was a school teacher who lived in a small apartment and drove an old car. But she had something the other women didn't have: she was real. She was kind and funny and made him feel like a normal person, not just a rich man. His parents had hated her. They said she was only after his money, which wasn't true. Sarah had never asked him for anything. She loved him for who he was, not what he owned. One day, Sarah had seemed very upset about something. She kept trying to tell him something important, but he was always busy with work. "Later," he would say. "We'll talk later." But later never came. His parents introduced him to Victoria. They said Victoria was perfect for him. She was beautiful and came from a rich family. Slowly, they convinced him that Sarah was wrong for him and Victoria was right. He had broken up with Sarah over the phone. He didn't even have the courage to see her face to face. It was the most cowardly thing he had ever done. After that, Sarah had disappeared from his life completely. Now, standing at the altar, he wondered what Sarah was doing. Was she happy? Was she married? Did she ever think about him? The music started playing. Everyone stood up and turned to watch Victoria walk down the aisle. She looked like a princess in her white dress. Her father walked beside her, smiling proudly. Victoria reached the altar and took Marcus's hand. Her hand was cold, he noticed. It had always been cold. The priest, Father Michael, opened his book. He was an old man who had performed hundreds of weddings. "Welcome, friends and family," he said in a loud voice that echoed through the cathedral. "We are here today to witness the marriage of Marcus Wellington and Victoria Ashford." Marcus looked out at all the faces watching them. There were his business partners, Victoria's friends, politicians, and celebrities. But none of them really knew him. They only knew his money and his family name. "Marriage is a sacred bond," Father Michael continued. "It is based on love, trust, and commitment. It is not something to be entered into lightly." Victoria squeezed Marcus's hand, but there was no warmth in it. He looked at her face and saw that she was smiling for the cameras, not for him. "Marcus, do you take Victoria to be your wife? Will you love her, honor her, and stay with her for the rest of your life?" Marcus opened his mouth to say, "I do," but something stopped him. A voice in his head was telling him this was wrong. But he couldn't stop now, not with all these people watching. Marcus started to speak. "If anyone has any reason why these two should not be married," Father Michael said, "speak now or forever hold your peace." The cathedral was completely silent. This was just part of the ceremony. No one ever actually spoke up during this part. But then, something happened that no one expected. Bang! The heavy wooden doors at the back of the cathedral flew open with a loud noise that made everyone jump. "Don't marry her." 3 small voices shouted together. Everyone turned around to see 3 little children running down the long aisle between the rows of seats. They were small, maybe 5 years old. 2 boys and 1 girl. The children wore simple clothes, jeans and t-shirts, not fancy wedding clothes. Their faces were red and wet with tears. They were running as fast as their little legs could carry them. The guests started talking loudly. Some people stood up to get a better look. Others took out their phones to record what was happening. The security guard started moving toward the children, but something made Marcus hold up his hand to stop them. "Don't marry her, Daddy," the little girl cried as she reached the altar. Her voice was high and desperate. "Please don't marry the mean lady." The word, Daddy, hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. His heart stopped beating for a moment. He looked down at the 3 children standing in front of him, and the whole world seemed to stop spinning. They had his eyes. The same dark brown eyes he saw every morning in the mirror. They had his nose, his chin, the same dimple that he had inherited from his grandfather. Looking at them was like looking at baby pictures of himself. "What is this?" Victoria hissed under her breath. Her perfect smile disappeared for the first time all day. "Marcus, what is happening? Who are these children?" But Marcus couldn't answer. He couldn't even breathe. He was staring at the children, and memories were flooding back into his mind like a dam had burst. Sarah. 3 years ago. The last time he had seen her, she had been trying to tell him something important. She had looked worried and scared. She had kept putting her hand on her stomach. Oh God. She had been pregnant. She had been trying to tell him she was pregnant, and he had been too busy, too focused on his business, too influenced by his parents to listen. "Please, Daddy," one of the little boys said, tugging on Marcus's jacket. "You have to come with us. Mama is really sick." The cathedral was in chaos now. Guests were talking loudly, pointing at the children, taking pictures and videos. Victoria's parents looked furious. Marcus's parents looked shocked and embarrassed. Marcus knelt down so he was at eye level with the children. His hands were shaking. What are your names?" he whispered. "I'm Emma," said the little girl. She had long dark hair and pigtails. "I'm Jake," said one of the boys. He looked exactly like Marcus had at that age. "I'm Luke," said the other boy. He was holding his sister's hand protectively. "Emma, Jake, and Luke," Marcus repeated. The names sounded beautiful to him. "And your mother? Her name is Sarah?" "Yes," Emma said, wiping tears from her eyes. "Mama Sarah. She's in the big hospital. She's been there for a long time. The doctors say she might not get better." Marcus felt like someone had squeezed all the air out of his lungs. Sarah was dying. Sarah, the woman he had loved and abandoned, was dying. And these children, his children, were going to lose their mother. "She told us about you," Jake said. "She showed us your picture in her special box. She said you were our real daddy, and if something bad happened to her, we should find you." "How did you find me here?" Marcus asked. "We saw your picture in the newspaper," Luke explained. "It said you were getting married today at the big church. Our neighbor Mrs. Johnson brought us here, but we ran away from her when we saw all the fancy cars." Victoria was getting angrier by the minute. She grabbed Marcus's arm and pulled him to his feet. "Marcus, this is ridiculous," she said loudly, not caring who heard her. "Anyone could teach children to call you daddy. This is obviously some kind of trick to get money from you." But Marcus pulled his arm away from her. For the first time he was seeing Victoria's true face. All the beauty and elegance couldn't hide the ugliness in her heart. "Look at them, Victoria," he said quietly. "Really look at them. They have my eyes, my face, my expressions. They're my children. So what if they are?" Victoria snapped, and everyone in the cathedral could hear her now. Her voice was sharp and mean. "You can give their mother some money and make them go away. We have a wedding to finish. I'm not going to let some bastard children ruin my perfect day." The word she used to describe the children made Marcus see red. The entire cathedral went silent. Even the children stopped crying, shocked by the horrible word this beautiful woman had used. Marcus stood up slowly. He looked at Victoria, really looked at her, and saw what he should have seen long ago. She was beautiful on the outside, but her heart was made of ice. She cared about nothing except money, status, and having the perfect life that she could show off to her friends. He thought about Sarah. Sweet, kind Sarah who had worked 2 jobs to support herself through college. Sarah, who volunteered at animal shelters on weekends. Sarah, who made him laugh and made him feel like a real person instead of just a bank account with legs. Sarah, who had loved him truly and completely, asking for nothing in return. Sarah, who was now dying alone while he was about to marry a woman who wanted to throw his own children away like garbage. "The wedding is off," Marcus said loudly so everyone in the cathedral could hear him. Victoria stared at him like he had grown a second head. "What did you say?" "I said the wedding is off." Marcus started taking off his expensive jacket. "I have to go to the hospital. I have to go to my children's mother. I have to go to the woman I should never have left." The guests gasped and started talking loudly. Some people were already calling their friends to spread the gossip. This would be the biggest scandal of the year. "You can't be serious." Victoria screamed, her face turning red with anger. "I am Victoria Ashford. My father owns half the banks in this state. We are perfect together. We are supposed to have the perfect marriage and the perfect life." "No," Marcus said, kneeling down to hug his 3 children. They wrapped their little arms around his neck, and he felt something he had never felt before: complete, unconditional love. Perfect isn't about money or status or what other people think. Perfect is about love and family and being there for the people who need you. Emma looked up at him with his own eyes. "Will you come with us to see Mama?" she asked in a small voice. "Yes," Marcus said, and he had never been more sure of anything in his life. "Yes, I will come with you. I should have been there all along." He stood up and picked up Emma. She was light as a feather, and she put her head on his shoulder like she had been doing it all her life. He took Jake and Luke by the hands. Victoria was having a complete breakdown now. She was screaming and throwing her beautiful bouquet on the floor. Her expensive makeup was running down her face. Her parents were shouting at Marcus's parents. The wedding photographer was taking pictures of everything. But Marcus didn't care anymore about any of it. He had found what he had been missing his whole life: real love, real family, real purpose. As they walked down the aisle together, the children told him about their lives. Emma loved to draw pictures and wanted to be an artist. Jake loved animals and wanted to be a veterinarian. Luke loved to read and wanted to write stories. They told him about their mother, how she worked so hard to take care of them, how she read them bedtime stories every night, how she made the best chocolate chip cookies in the world, how she never complained even when she was tired. "Mama always said you were a good man," Luke said as they got into Marcus's car. "She said you just got confused by other people telling you what to do." Marcus felt tears running down his face. "Your mama is the smartest woman I've ever known." At the hospital, Marcus was more nervous than he had ever been in his life. What would he say to Sarah? How could he apologize for abandoning her when she needed him most? How could he make up for 3 years of being absent from his children's lives? But when he walked into her room and saw her lying there, so pale and thin but still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, he knew exactly what to say. "I'm sorry," he whispered, taking her weak hand in his. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. I should have listened. I should have stayed. I should have chosen you." Sarah opened her eyes and saw him standing there with their 3 children. For a moment she thought she was dreaming. "Marcus," she whispered. "Is it really you?" "Mama," the children ran to her bedside. "We found him. We found our daddy just like you told us to." Sarah began to cry, but they were happy tears. "You came," she said to Marcus. "I'm here now," he said. "And I'm never leaving you again. We're going to get you better and then we're going to be a family. A real family, the way we should have been from the beginning." Outside the hospital, news reporters were already gathering. The story of the billionaire who left his bride at the altar for his secret children would be on every news channel and newspaper in the country. But inside room 314, none of that mattered. What mattered was a man who had finally found his heart again, a woman who had never stopped believing in true love, and 3 children who finally had their father back. It wasn't the wedding Marcus had planned, but it was the beginning of the life he was truly meant to live.